My name is Lisa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. We are working on this Merriest Moments card. And the reason I wanted to work with this is it came with a hybrid embossing folder. And it was a little bit looked over in the catalog, and that's why you have me. You order from a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator so that you have someone who can answer those sorts of questions and teach you how to use our products and get the most out of them. And so that's what we're doing today. We're going to work with a hybrid embossing folder. Okay, so this is the bundle I'm talking about. It's called Merriest Moments. And so there is, of course, the stamp set. And then we have the dies that go with it. And there's quite a few dies. So it took up 2 pages. And they're meant to use in conjunction with the embossing folder, something we have not seen before. And the idea is that you can take the die and it fits into the embossing folder a certain way. There we go. And it kind of, I don't know if you can hear it, but it kind of snaps. There's an actual spot that it goes into. And then we're going to put our paper in there and we're going to run it through, and it's going to cut and emboss at the same time. Now, of course, you can use it individually and you can just emboss, you can just cut, or you can do the two together. And so we're going to go over the various options of things you can do with it. Like I said, this is the way I normally use it. There's also this detailed one. And you can run it through here with this one. It's not as exact. And we're going to go do that today, so you'll get to see, you know, that the embossing is not as deep as I would like it when they're done together like this. But we're going to try it out just so you can see. And I have a card we're going to be making. And that's this one here. And so I'm using the Healing Hugs Designer Series paper. I've got a 4" by 5 1/4 piece of that. I did a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of Mossy Meadow. I've got a little scrap of white. I've got also a layer of white on the inside, 4" by 5 1/4. So I've got those all ready to go. And I brought in my cut and emboss machine, because this is going to be the magic to it all. And I'm going to show you how this works. So I have a bunch of pieces of the paper over here. And so we're just going to start out with the standard embossing. So if we were to run a normal embossing folder, we lay the paper in there, we make it a sandwich. We're going to feed it through the machine with the seam first. That's plate number 1. And then I'm going to do plate number 4. So this is what it would normally look like just running it through the embossing folder, doing a normal embossing. Obviously, I've got it shifted a little. It could look better, but you get the idea. We can use it as a regular old embossing folder. Then I'm going to take another piece and I'm going to bring in this die. When things do this, when there's like a certain way it has to go, a lot of times what I'll do is make a little mark with a Sharpie just to tell me this is the top, so I'm not doing this spinning thing every time, but that's an option. So I'm going to set that in there. It kind of snaps into place. Then I'm going to set the paper on top. So that one did the embossing and the cutting at the same time out of that one. But what I wanted to do was the more detailed die. So I'm going to bring in this one. Again, we're going to match it up. And then we're going to set this on top. This one, because of these solid pieces, it doesn't quite snap in as easily as the other one does. So here we go. We can see that it did cut and emboss at the same time. Again, maybe I should have run it through twice. In the embossing, I'm not getting as much detail as I did with this other one. And so what I choose to do, when I made my card, I went ahead and just took my paper and I cut out my shape. So I went ahead and I cut out my shape. And now I'm going to run it through the embossing folder. So again, I'm going to look for what direction I'm going. Aha, here we go. And then I'm going to line it up and close it, and then come back in with my 1 and 4. Oh, I used the wrong one. That's the one that did this one. Okay, so those are not too different. So this one I ran through the embossing folder with the die in it. This one I did them separate. What I intended to do was run the detailed die and then put it in there. So we know that the folder works just as well with the die in it and without it for the large open one. For the detailed one, let's try this again. Okay, so I'm going to line up my detailed die on my plate. I'm going to put the two of them together. I've got my base plate and my die adapter. I'm going to run that through. And there, that time it cut out all the detail I wanted. But it's not embossed. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the embossing folder, and then I'm going to set this in here, lining it up, and then we're going to close it. Again, probably should have run it back. Now I only have one more piece I need to die cut. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to die cut this little piece in the middle. Because this little white piece here has the stitching on it, that is done using the die that came in this set. So this one fits exactly right in the middle of that one. So here we go. Here's our die with the stitching. Here is our card base in real red. Of course, this is the standard, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. We have the standard layer of DSP. This is the Healing Hugs, 4 inches by 5 1/4. We have the detailed one that I die cut, that one. Then I have my ink and my ribbon, and we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so for the outside, I just took the stamp from here. I did this one here, the Thinking of You This Festive Season. You could use any one of them, and you could even turn it sideways. Like I noticed this one seems to be a little more landscape than portrait, so you could do that way. I always line my stamps up on my grid paper and then put my block down on it square. That's my best attempt at getting these things straight. I would hope all of you are subscribed to my YouTube channel. Everything that I do here, I kind of like edit out all of our chit chat and I put it over there. So maybe a 30-minute video turns into a 20-minute video. So it's a lot easier if you're trying to follow along. I'm going to take the stamps I used in here. And so that's going to be out of this set. I used the flower, the poinsettia, the smaller leaf, and the center, which was this one. Okay, so I started out with the real red, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp the flower in the corner. And then the little yellow spots go in the center. And then I have the leaf. So there we go, there's the inside of our card. Then I'm going to adhere this onto that. See how perfectly that fits right there in the middle? Then I'm going to flip it over and put some dimensionals. Now we're down to the bow. And there we go. Let's go ahead and put this on some glue dots. And there's our card. So what do you guys think? From what you saw of this in our catalog, did you understand what they meant by hybrid embossing folder? And did this help clarify it for you? There we go. This is it right here. So it says Merriest frames with hybrid embossing folder, but it doesn't really tell me what it does. Page 43. So there's a little bit of a hint up here in the corner as they show that sitting inside the embossing folder. So today's card was the Merriest Moments, and I have these 3 as options for next week. Tell me if you have a preference. All 3 of them will be coming up at some point, but what do you think? Thanks for joining me. Bye.